All right, so in this video today, I'm going to talk about why your fitness content is not currently signing clients. All right, so I've been creating content for the last 9 years inside of my own online coaching businesses. I've created well over 70,000 pieces of content from Twitter to Instagram to Facebook, emails, here on YouTube. I've created so much content over the last 9 years, and there's a big difference between content that grabs people's attention and possibly goes viral versus content that signs clients versus content that literally just does nothing really at all for you. And so today what I want to share with you is 4 different frameworks, the ways that I think about content creation and how to know if what I'm putting out is relevant, if it's actually serving the purpose of communicating to people my mission, my message, if it's actually like rallying people around the program and the cause and the problems that I'm setting out to solve inside of the online coaching world. All right. And so again, this is so important. If you are trying to create content right now that actually attracts and converts people into paying clients, that's specifically what this training, what this video is going to be all about. All right. So this is really top of mind for me. I just recently onboarded a brand new coach that I'm working with, and she has gained over 11,000 followers over the last 12 months. So here in 2025, she started a brand new Instagram account and has figured out really how to grow and to engage that account. However, what she's struggling with is she's struggling with monetization. She is not booking as many calls as she once used to, which is obviously leading to then not getting as many clients as she would like. And so what I want to walk you through is just the conversations and the things that we're going to actually be working on inside of her business of how to not just create content that gets engagement, but content that actually signs clients. And this is so important because so many coaches right now, they are creating content. You are probably currently showing up and playing the social media game. You're putting yourself out there. You're posting consistently every single day, maybe even across multiple different channels and platforms. But so many coaches I'm hearing from over and over and over right now, they're just not signing as many clients as maybe they once used to. They're not getting as many leads. Lots of people are struggling right now to even get people to want to DM them. And so this is the important conversation we need to be having. There's 4 different frameworks I'm going to walk you through today, and 4 different things that I want to help you to better understand your offer, to better understand your message, and what people are actually going to be looking for from you in order to sign up and become a client. And so again, there's so much noise out there right now about content itself, right? There's so many different ways that like content is being positioned. It's like, hey, let's go viral. Let's create viral content. There's so much talk about conversion content. There's so much talk about content that sells, attraction content, right? There's so much noise out there about content. And so it can be confusing to actually really begin to answer the question of like, hey, like what should I actually be posting? Everybody's saying I should take a different approach. Everybody's saying, there's so much noise, especially around, reels right now about negative hooks and having all these transitions and angle changes. And like, it's this really big, complex topic right now. And so it's leading to lots of coaches, again, that are spending hours and hours and hours on content creation itself every single week, putting in so much effort, but then just not getting clients. And that's the frustrating piece that I really want to address today. So hopping into things, I got a few notes here that I want to walk you through. And one thing that I wanted to just mention from the start is that if you want to understand how to create content that will actually get you leads and that will actually get you fitness clients, these are 4 things that are going to be a non-negotiable. It's really going to have to do more about messaging, not so much like, how to create like fancy edits and create the perfect hooks. All right, this is important because so often people are looking for the 80-20, right? They're looking for like, what's the 20% of things that gets 80% of the results? And the missing piece is that, what that looks like is that's the negative hooks. That's the, changing up the edits and the scenes and the camera angles every 1.5 to 3 seconds, right? And so what's ended up happening though is that people are missing the 80%. They're so focused on the science of how do I create a viral piece of content that they're completely missing the 80%. They're missing the majority of the art of the message of the piece of content itself. And so we've got lots of people that are creating cool looking content, right? We've got lots of people that are creating content that gets lots of engagement that the algorithm actually likes, but it's not getting clients because the actual message itself is missing. And so I want to dive into this because I've literally helped so many coaches that have followings of 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 followers reach 10K months in their online fitness coaching business. And it's not because, again, they have thousands and thousands of followers. It's because the content they're creating actually speaks to people. It moves them and gets them into the program. So framework number 1, the first thing I want to talk about here, the piece of insight that I want to give you is that you have to know your offer. All right, your offer is the foundation of your business. Your offer really, it is the business itself. So what I mean by this is that so many coaches, when they come and they talk to me and we get on a sales call or we're going back and forth in DMs, the conversation typically, one of the first things that I ask them about is for them to really just explain to me, like, what do they actually do inside their program? And typically what this leads to is a lot of, like nuance, a lot of like complexity, a lot of details where coaches are really what they're trying to communicate to me is that they're struggling to actually tell me what it is they do. They struggle to actually communicate to people what it is they do. So one of the most common go-to things that I hear from people is they're like, hey, if I get somebody on a sales call and I can like talk to them, we can go back and forth for like 60 minutes. I can get them to sign up. But the issue is that I just don't get a lot of sales calls to begin with. right? That's one of the number one telltale signs that a coach is struggling to understand what their offer is. They can't succinctly, in one or two sentences, explain to me what it is they do and how it is they help people. And so the reason that this is the number one thing or the first thing out of the four frames we have to talk about is because if you don't understand your offer, if you don't understand why people would actually give you money, all right, there's really only four different reasons that people would give you money. And if you don't understand yours, if you don't understand why people would actually give you money, then you are going to struggle to create content that actually speaks to the right person in the right way. And so we have to understand the actual offer. We have to understand what is the problem we solve. We have to understand why would someone want to purchase from me. And then again, like I said, making sure that the content we're posting actually speaks to those things. So many coaches are chasing all these viral trends. They're just like copying other big creators and just looking for, like what's the social media trends and the stuff that they can hop on, what's the popular memes or the popular TikTok dances or whatever that they can hop on, and they post these things and it might get them lots of engagement. But at the end of the day, like nobody signs up to a program because oh man, I saw this reel and it was just like so cool and it was like so viral that I was just like, I want to hire that person, right? People hire us because they have a problem that they want help solving. And so number one is we have to understand what it is that we actually sell. It would be very similar to an example that I thought of, and I wrote down here in my notes, is it would be very similar to talking to someone and them saying like, oh, it's like, hey, what do you do? And they're like, oh, like I work in the trades, right? It's like, okay, cool. Like I understand maybe they're blue collar, but like, I don't really understand, like there's so many different trades. Versus a good way to explain what you do would be something like, oh, like I'm a house builder, right? I'm a carpenter. Typically I build homes that are between $150,000 to $300,000. These are starter homes. It's a lot of people in their late 20s, early 30s who are really looking for that first home to kind of purchase and build and set their family up in, right? Completely different type of message. That's a completely different way to communicate. So many fitness coaches right now are struggling because again, they just kind of show up and they're just like, oh, like I'm a fitness coach. And it's like, okay, like cool, like what does that really entail? Like what does that really mean? So number one, we have to actually understand our offer. We have to understand specifically how it is we actually help people. And again, that can seem like a really surface level thing. It can sound like a thing that's like a beginner level kind of conversation. It can be sometimes, but most of the coaches that I'm talking to right now are coaches who have been in the online space for the last 3, 4, 5 years that are really struggling with the content game right now. And it's because over the last 3, 4, 5 years, they've been just selling fitness coaching. They've been just selling a 12-week program with macros and 24/7 check-ins. And that is just not really converting anymore. That is the version of just saying, hey, I'm a blue collar worker, right? And so we have to understand like what we're actually selling. 12-week program with macros and 24/7 check-ins. It's not really an offer. It's not really messaging that's going to work anymore. And so we have to go the next layer deeper and understand specifically how we actually help people. Number two is we have to know our philosophy. All right, so I kind of already started talking about that with the 12-week program with macros and 24/7 check-ins, right? Coaches struggle to know what to post because they don't actually understand what it is they believe. All right, lots of coaches, again, they're all just selling the same generic 12-week program with macros and 24/7 check-ins, and they've not really done the deeper level work that's necessary to iron out what they actually believe, what their philosophy is, what they stand for, how it is they actually help people. And so when it comes to creating content, it's really difficult to actually go into those deeper layers of explaining to people their specific problems and the coach's specific solutions to solving those big issues, those problems that people would be willing to spend money on. And so the reason this is so relevant right now is because the space is incredibly noisy. All right, the space is incredibly noisy. However, it's very shallow. There's lots of just very surface level generic content out there right now because so many people are just selling surface level generic programs. And so for coaches who are actually really good at what it is they do, it's time for us to really evolve from the 12-week program with macros and 24/7 check-ins and to go into a layer deeper and actually iron out, what do you believe? What is your philosophy and what is the way that you believe is the best way for people to get results and for us to actually create your own unique way of doing things. And so when we go to these layers deeper, we can actually begin to understand specifically like how it is that we actually help people. And our content goes from just being like a generic, 3 tips or a generic 3 hacks to being able to speak to very, very specific things. And so for example, this is where like coaches right now that I'm seeing really to shine and really to stand out, they're beginning to tackle like real problems. They're beginning to tackle things like maybe helping women with like PCOS, or they're beginning to go really deep into hormones, or they're beginning to go really deep into actual strength training and creating a real strength training philosophy, right? The coaches who are winning right now are leaving behind just the generic 12-week program type of coaching and are going into those layers deeper and understanding what their actual philosophy is. And the way to think about this is your content that you're posting it's kind of like you stepping on stage, right? And if you are going to step on stage, or another example, maybe like you're getting ready to go to court and you are the lawyer and you're showing up to court and you are about to present a case as to why, someone should do something in the certain, like as to why they should train the way that you train. You would want to show up to court very well prepared. You would want to have all of your ducks in a row. You would want to have all of your arguments figured out. You would want to know your philosophy and your argument and your reasonings all the way through. front to back, back to front. You would want to understand every single point and every single reason as to why you do the things that you do. And so step number two, if we want to be creating content, step number one, we have to actually understand like, what are we actually selling to people? What is the offer itself? Step number two, we have to understand like, what actually is that offer made up of? What is the philosophy? What is the arguments? Why do we do the things that we're doing? Again, because if we're creating content, we have to understand the deeper levels. If we're trying to create content specifically that signs clients, if you're just trying to go viral, just go follow trends, right? Post things like, hey, do you prefer like tea or coffee, right? Post stuff like that that's super surface level, and you'll probably get lots of engagement. But people will not pay you $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 for online fitness coaching because you like tea and they also like tea, right? They want to understand the deep level problems that you can help them solve, and they want to see real expertise and authority and competence and confidence from you. And so, well, number one, we have to know our offer. Number two, we have to actually understand what your philosophy is. Number three, then, as we begin to iron out the philosophy and as we begin to expand on that thing, your philosophy is going to be made up of big ideas and frameworks. And so this really expands on point number two, is like we really have to understand all of the nuanced little details about your program and what it is you believe and your philosophy and your way of doing things. And we have to understand each and every single piece and what we do and why we do it and how we actually do it. This is such a key important piece. And I'm going to give you some examples from some of our actual online coaching businesses. So inside of my wife and I's online coaching program, we teach nutrition from a completely different perspective than most coaches. All right. So most coaches, under the old way of nutrition coaching, they would sell something like, hey, it's a 12-week program with macros and 24/7 check-ins, for instance. What we started to realize is that bringing a lot of people in and just starting them out with macros was not very effective, right? It was way too much. It was overwhelming. They weren't ready for that level of intensity. And so we said, well, what if we don't give them macro goals and instead we just have them like track their food so that they start to create some sort of like awareness around like what they're eating. And so we started to do that, and it was a little bit better, but we realized like, hey, even that, like the whole just like tracking and all of that was still a little bit intense for a lot of people, especially in the beginning. And so that's when we started doing things like food diaries. And what we started doing is starting people out, just literally taking pictures of their food and submitting pictures to us of what they were eating. And then from there, we were able to create different frameworks. The 1-2-1 method, for instance, is one of the frameworks we teach to actually help them understand what portion size it should look like. And we were able to actually just give them feedback based on the pictures they were sending us about their food and about, hey, I would make this tweak. I'm seeing 3 different carb sources on your plate. I'm only seeing a little bit of protein, right? And we're able to begin to just give them live adjustments there and actually coach them through just seeing their pictures. And this was a very low entry barrier way to actually helping people begin to fix their nutrition. And then from there, we can start to ramp things up. Let's say, cool, we start getting them to do food diaries. They start to lose weight. For a lot of people, this is all they really ever need. We're able to, just from the diaries alone, to begin getting them results. Some people, though, they want to dial things in a little bit more. So that's where then we introduce, okay, cool, let's just start tracking your calories. Let's not even set goals or any sort of like objectives. Just track your food in MyFitnessPal and become aware of, wow, that thing has a lot of calories in it. I never realized that this certain food, like I said, had that many calories in it, and they become just aware of what they're eating. And then the third level is, if they really have like some serious goals they want to chase down, then yes, we can begin setting like macro targets. And so this is just an example of understanding your ideas and your frameworks and actually creating something that works for people, right? Again, so much coaching out there is just generic 12-week programs with macros and 24/7 check-ins. And when you go to create, when you just have like a viral, like, or a generic like cookie cutter type program, and you go to create content, well, the only thing you're really gonna be able to create is just like generic cookie cutter content. Once you begin to actually sit down and go, wait a minute, what actually is the best way to help somebody? What actually would be the best way to get somebody results? Based on working with all the clients that I've worked with, what have I actually seen to be the most successful? Let me test some different things and begin to create my own unique philosophy, my own unique frameworks, my own big ideas, and actually figure out a great way to coach people, right? The cliche saying for the last several decades has just been, you need to eat less and move more. And as fitness coaches, we understand that that's like, intuitively correct. However, in 2025, like over 80% of Americans are overweight, which means that that piece of advice and that way of approaching fitness just literally is not working for most people. And so if you want to be a coach that is successful going into 2026 and you want to create content that's actually attracting and signing clients, we have to actually begin thinking about the people we're serving and figuring out like, cool, if just eating less and moving more and counting macros is not leading people to getting in shape, then what actually would work for them? And so, for example, that's where like the food diaries for us came into play. We started to realize like, hey, this is not like the optimal approach to take like if you're trying to step on a bodybuilding stage, but for most people, this is going to be very sufficient. This is going to be more than good enough for them. And so this is an example of how we begin to create our own unique ideas, our own unique frameworks. We stop just following the generic cookie cutter programming and fitness plans that is just pushed in masses by the industry, and we began to create our own unique way of doing things, and we figured out what it was we believed and why we believe these things, again, all with the intentions of how do we get clients results. And this is what has shaped our content. All right, so let me walk you through. Number one, we have to know our offer. Number two, we have to understand what is the philosophy inside of that offer that we're teaching. And number three, what are all the different ideas and frameworks inside of our philosophy, right? So we have to actually, like, if you want to create content, as funny as it sounds, it's the best way to actually figure out good content is to figure out, how do I actually help people? What's the best way to get people results? And then all of that leads into number four. Once we understand how we get people results, and we understand we've thought through, almost again like a lawyer presenting in court, we have created all of our arguments, and we understand exactly what we do and why we do it and why we pick this way versus other ways, right? This is the golden rule of marketing, or the golden question of marketing. The golden question of marketing is, why should someone choose you versus anyone else, or doing nothing at all? All right, that's the golden question to be answering inside of your content. Why should somebody pick you versus one of the million other fitness coaches out there, or doing nothing at all? And so if we're just posting, again, this entire video is with the context of we're trying to create content that signs clients, right? If you're trying to sign clients, we have to figure out, cool, if everybody else is selling generic fitness coaching, and that generic fitness coaching is not getting people results, 80% of Americans are overweight, it's very clearly not working. What should we be doing different? And what do I believe that is different from the rest of the coaches out there? And then number four, we can package, after we've done all this work and we've thought through all this, we can actually package this up into what I call industry leader content. So industry leader content is, again, it's not about creating just generic carbon copy fitness content, right? For so many fitness coaches right now, and I would actually encourage you to do this. Go out and do some market research. Actually go out and look at other fitness coaches right now and figure out what are they all posting. And after you click on 3, 4, 5 different profiles, more than likely what you're going to see is that everybody is posting the same stuff. They sound the exact same. They're pushing the same message. They're all talking about the same 3 hacks, 4 chest tips, 3 things to do. They're all posting the same stuff. They're all selling the same generic programs. And so this is why right now so many coaches are struggling. They sound generic, they blend in, nothing stands out. Number two is that, again, their message doesn't stand out. That was actually point number 2, right? Number 1 is that most coaches right now are generic carbon copies of each other. Number 2 is that their message doesn't stand out. They're just posting the exact same thing as everybody else. And this is not content that's going to actually bring you clients. A message that is actually going to bring you clients, content that is actually going to sign clients for you, is going to be based in reality and service. All right, it's going to be based in reality and service. And what I mean by that is content that's actually going to sign clients is going to be found in the reality of your day-to-day business work, right? When you're getting on coaching calls and you are helping your clients out and you're going deep into their frustrations and their problems and they want to quit and things aren't working, those conversations that you're having and those frameworks that you're creating and those insights that you are giving them, those things that only come from being in the trenches and working with your clients, that is going to begin to be the content that I encourage you to post. That is going to be the content that is going to begin to stand out. It's not going to be the flashy trends, the TikTok trends and the dances that everybody else is posting, but it is going to be content that is based in reality. It is going to be content that is based on real life conversations that you are having with clients, real life problems that they are currently struggling with and need help with. That is going to be the content that you're going to start producing. When you actually begin to focus on your service itself and not so much on point number 3 of this, I'm just going to kind of roll into it. When you begin to actually focus on service, and not so much on how do I create social media fame? How do I find the trends, the hacks? How do I just find the stuff that the algorithm loves and is going to push out? And you go from chasing fame and chasing followers and chasing likes to actually chasing service, to actually communicating the things that people need to hear from you today in order to make a life transformation, to make a decision to better their life. You will begin attracting clients. A few years back when I was just starting content and clients for the first time, we booked in a sales call with a fitness influencer who had, I believe, 223,000, if I recall. It was over 220,000 followers. And we were super excited and we were super hyped. We were like, man, this is going to be the breakthrough for us. This is going to be awesome. We're going to be able to be like, have so much clout behind us. And when we got on that sales call, what we found out is that this coach had 220,000 plus followers, but they were struggling to even get their first 10 clients. And that really is the message that I want to drive home today, is that you can chase fame, which is what so many people are pushing right now on the timeline. So many of the voices in the business space are pushing, go viral, use the right hooks, use these editing styles. And it can be okay from time to time to use some of that stuff. Like I said, that's the 20%. It's not necessarily bad to do. It can be stuff that is effective, but the 80%, the stuff that 80% is in, the stuff that actually is like the bulk of what gets you results, is going to be this stuff here. It's going to be found in the actual art, in the craft of fitness coaching itself. And so to conclude and to wrap up this video, you need to be very clear on your way of coaching in 2025 going into 26, right? You need to be very clear on your way of coaching. And in a world that is just full of so much hype and so much noise and so much just ranting and yelling and dancing and just doing crazy stuff to try to grab attention in the online space, if you can come at this from a place of groundedness, a place of insight, a place of sharing real earned wisdom from actually working in the trenches with your clients, and you can begin to share the real substance of change and transformation and begin to have the real conversations that your ideal client is currently facing their day-to-day life, when you can begin to speak to their frustrations and their problems and their pain points and the things that they are actually experiencing, the things that are actually keeping them awake at night, and you can begin to communicate to them the solutions and the ways that you can actually help them solve those problems, you will begin to sign clients. And it's not going to be content that is necessarily going to be the most popular content, as in it's not content that's necessarily going to go viral. But when you post this content, you will begin to attract clients. You will begin to get leads. You will find people that resonate with the message. They will say, hey, I feel like you get me. I feel like you understand me. When you talk about this topic, that's the exact thing that runs through my head when I'm laying awake at night at 2 a.m. in the morning. And that's the thing that I would be more than willing to spend $2,000, $3,000, and $5,000 on. And so if there's one thing I can leave you with, it would be to really figure out what your mission is, because that is where you will actually find your message. If you are building a real business that has some sort of cause, if you are championing some sort of community and movement and mission in the online space that represents real problems, it represents real people, and really actually speaks to the people that you are attempting to serve and that you are trying to show up for, you will begin posting content that resonates so much deeper than just following another trend, another 3 hacks, or another 3 tips. And so with that being said, I'm already a little bit over on time here, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up here. I hope you found this to be insightful. It's going to be in the depths where you are creating genuinely valuable, insightful content that people can actually see real wisdom inside of you. That is going to be the content that signs clients. And so I would encourage you, stop chasing surface level content, stop just chasing viral hacks, viral trends, and start posting stuff of real content of real substance, right? That'd be a better way to say it. With that being said, hopefully that was helpful. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.